Alright, so tonight I've got another bin. This is a cocoon recovery bin that I got from my last reset. And we recovered it January the 12th. So I waited a couple of weeks and let some of the cocoons start hatching out. And so we've fed it a couple of times. Been one of their favorite meals here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take the hatchlings out of here and move them into a fresh bedded bin that I just set up new bedding with. This is the old castings and the old bedding. And so I'm going to take all the new hatchlings out and move those over to the new bedding and start a grow out bin. And then I'm going to leave this bin because it still has cocoons in it that haven't hatched. And so I'll be trying to recover more hatchlings. And then once this bin gets totally redone or emptied, I'll take the bedding, finished casting / bedding, and put it in with my castings. And then I'll start another bin with some more cocoons I have. I've got another 2 sets of cocoons and a whole nother tray of hatchlings. And I'll trade them back into fresh bedding. And then I'll let them grow out. And as they grow out, they'll eat the new bedding and make me more castings and more cocoons. And that's basically the name of the game. So anyway, let's get this started. We could talk about some issues if you want to tonight. Some things that are kind of people are asking and wanting to know. I noticed that everybody's having trouble with fruit flies. I don't have trouble with fruit flies anymore. I used to have trouble with fruit flies, but I started running these bins with the lids. And then also when I feed, I take and just basically I go all the way to the bottom of the bin. I put my food in and I cover it all the way up. Then I have my lid I put on. I don't know how many holes people want to drill holes in brand new totes and stuff. And that just totally blows me away. I don't know what that's about. Bins aren't cheap. And so anyway, I leave the lids on. The worms don't suffocate. I don't know what the myth of worms suffocating. Worms live in the dirt. They breathe through their skin and through the moisture. The air that everybody's wanting is air to keep your bins dry, but I don't over wet my bins, so therefore I don't have to fight the moisture. I don't water my bins. I blend my food. I put the food in here that's already moist, and it keeps the bin as wet as it needs to be. If I happen to catch my bin a little dry, I will add some water. But other than that, I don't know. Everybody fights, and I fought it. I fought it. We drowned the set and we dried the set to death. So yes, I've been there and done that. That's why I don't. People are talking about sifting their castings and should they dry it? And yeah, you can try drying it, but if you're busy like I am usually, I don't have time to sit around and babysit. So I will forget about something in a minute, and we dried them out, and guess what? That's all we had. Little beef jerky worms. And so we took the cocoons and tried it again. And we drowned the set because we were scared we were going to dry them out and overwatered them. And I've noticed that a lot of new worm farmers or worm hobbyists, they fight that. And I've been there and fought that too. That was 4 years ago. So luckily, maybe you can learn from some of my mistakes. I don't worry about mites. I don't worry about pot worms. They don't bother me any. They don't bother your worms any. So in the populations that I have are slim and none. I mean, you might see a pot worm here and there, but I'm not eat up with pot worms, and I run my bins a little wet. But the worms like it. The cocoons like it. Everything to get everything going, they seem to like it. See, there's a little one there. He's fixing to go in the other bin. So, and the fruit flies. Like I said, I cover it. I got the lid. I see people, they put the, let me see. I think I got one here. Let me see. They put this in here. And put that in there. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's it right there. I got it covered. Well, the problem is this whole edge around here, all it does is dry out. So that's more moisture you have to add back in to try to get your moisture level correct. And also, I don't know if you've ever watched a fruit fly, but I have when I had fruit flies. They'll land and then they go on their feet. They don't fly everywhere they go. They like to walk too. They'll walk down the side of this bin. They'll go down. They'll get right up underneath here, do whatever they want to do. So this is not anti-fruit fly anything. And so I used to do this, and I still do this on my big bin over here. I keep this on top of it, but I bury the food so deep in it, I don't have to worry about anything getting it. And so this works for the big bin, but on these little shallow bins and everything, I don't like it. I have to water the edges all the time, and I have to worry about it's still losing moisture. I don't lose any moisture with the lid, so I don't run that on my grow out bins, hatcheries, nursery bins. I don't run any plastics. I got the lid. Like I said, the bins are cheap. The lids are cheap. They stack. When I set them on top of each other, they actually help seal off the edge even better. So we don't fight. We don't fight with the insects like I see everybody else fighting about. So anyway, I just try to help you out. If you want to go this way, you're more than welcome to. It works for me. It may not work for you. I don't know. You're welcome to try it and see if it does. Go buy you a set of bins and give it a shot. $10 for 2 bins. Throw you some bedding in there. I know everybody doesn't have access to the bedding that I work, and that's fine. You'll see a couple of centipedes in here. They came in out of the bedding, and the new bedding that I'm running now, that this is, doesn't have any of that in it. We made sure that we don't have any other creatures in there at all now. But they haven't heard anything. The population's been just fine. Everybody's been making cocoons. I'm a little blind, so yeah, they make it a little hard on me sometimes to differentiate between the two, but I have to put my reading glasses on for that one. But there's a centipede or some kind of pede, and there's a hatchling. There's a hatchling. They're all just fine. He's not over here attacking him. He's not eating him. He doesn't eat enough to starve him to death. I feed everybody enough to where everybody stays happy. And what's that? That's a little mite right there, I think. Yeah, okay. He ain't hurting nobody either. And I don't sell my castings. So I don't care if it's potworms in it anyway. I take them out there and put it in the garden. And so, but everybody's all freaking out over potworms and bugs, and I understand that the gnats and the fruit flies can be irritating. So the best way to get rid of those is bury your food deep. I blend my food, so therefore my food doesn't hang around a long time either. I break it down small enough for the worms to actually eat it, and for it to break down faster and decompose faster for the worms to eat it. So therefore, my food's not hanging out for a month. I put food in every week, and they eat it every week, and then I don't have all this extra food that I see people have in their bins and stuff like that. So that's just a tip that I'm gonna give you. So that's just a tip I'm gonna give you. We fed them some corn right here, and they love corn, especially corn on the cob. It's like a little homestead to them or something. They go in and they'll actually lay their cocoons. If you've got adults, they'll lay their cocoons into the kernel where the kernel holes are. They'll lay cocoons in there. And so let's see what we can find sitting around the edge of this thing. You're gonna make me put my glasses on, ain't you? Yeah, you're gonna make me put my glasses on. It sucks getting old. Well, here's one right there. Come on, buddy. And I just put them over in this other bin. And like I said, I can go through every week roughly, and I can pull out all the ones I can pick up, and then I just let it run. And within a month or so, I'll have all the juveniles I can get out, and then see several, well, probably 10, 15 right there in that one spot that I can see. There's no telling what's in here, so we're just gonna take the whole handful. Go right over here. See, there's a potworm right there. That's a potworm. People have confused about potworm versus hatchling. The hatchlings get their pink tint within a day or two of being born. They'll get their pink tint to them, and then a lot of people are like, my worms aren't growing. And I was the same way. I was like, oh, I got thousands of worms. And then I was like, my worms aren't growing. And then that's when I realized what a potworm was. So, but those are definitely hatchlings. So that's 3. So we're doing good. And what I'll do is I'll just add these to a new bin. And then once that bin grows out, they'll start making me more cocoons and more worms and more castings. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the name of the game. So that's how we're gonna play it. So and I mean, I know a lot of people are new to this, and I've been messing with these things for going on probably 4.5 years, whatever it is. And like I said, I've made mistakes. I've wasted money and time and the whole 9 yards trying to do this and panicked about that and everything. See, there's another handful of babies. So we're just going to pitch that right over here. And I could wait. Patience is a virtue with worm farming. I could wait and let them get bigger, like this one. See, he's a whole lot older. I could wait till he gets that age, or they all get that age, and then I could pick them out one at a time. But I don't mind taking them like they are and changing them over already. And I'm throwing a little bit of old castings in there with it. That helps kick off the bin, so it's no harm, no foul either way. So that's where we're at with that. And like I said, they're thriving and getting down. So, like I said, if you got any questions, something you want to know, if I know an answer to it or a way to do it, I'll share it with you. It's kind of what this is about. I just know a lot of people get panicked about potworms and people panic about this, and there's nothing to panic about at all. Nothing to panic at all about. There's one of the centipedes. And that's one reason why I'm doing a bedding change is because they were in there when I harvested the bedding off the forest floor. I picked up several invasive species of animal, of insects, and it's okay. They all live together in the wild, so they get along pretty good in a bin. No need to freak out about it. And like I said, they're not hurting anything. I don't know what kind of centipede things they are. They're not technically like a centipede. Centipedes you see that run around, the long furry legs on it, and they're really fast. This is not them. They are little slow little creatures, and they're kind of docile when you touch them or whatever. They'll roll up into a ball or a disc, but they haven't hurt my worms any, and so I'm not 100% sure what they are. Now the actual centipedes, yes, I've seen those in a couple of the bins, and I do kill those every time I see them. And other than that, like I said, the populations are still going strong, and we still got plenty of cocoons left. There's let me see, let me get that on there for you. There's a cocoon there, right there. So there's still some that need to hatch, and so we're gonna let them all hatch out as many as we can, and I'll go through and eventually probably just let them run out till they get old enough to be able to be picked up. See, there's another burgundy cocoon there. And so I'll probably just let them hatch on out for another week or two or whatever, and get them to where I can pick them up. I don't have to wear my bifocal reading glasses things here. But there's one little baby there. We'll get him and take him to his new home. And there's several embedded in the corn here. See there. And there. There's a cocoon. So I'll just put this back in here. Let them run with it. And if you see me flick my glove, right? I flick my glove because I don't want to take and lay the gloves up here on the shelf with babies stuck to it. Because you see how many babies will get stuck to the glove. I'll have 4 or 5. When I'm doing a harvest, I go through and do the light harvest. I have a ball of worms that big. And as I pick them up and put them in different trays or bins or whatever, when I let go of the ball, and I'll look at my hand and I'll have 10, 15 little bitty hatchlings stuck to my glove, and then you have to get each one of them off. So when I flick, I'm flicking to make sure I'm not pulling any cocoons out, and I'm not pulling any hatchlings out and laying them up here to dry out and die. So that's what the flicking is just to make sure everything's off of it, and not transferring any worms anywhere they don't need to be. Keep them in here, keep them wet, keep them happy. And so, like I said about the fruit flies, the best way to fight fruit flies is bury down. I'm going to say we've got that much bedding. So I'm going to say roughly around about 2 inches of bedding is all that's in these bins. 2 to 3 inches. It increases as we go along, though, because, like, this is just a dump out, is all it is. This is just castings that were left over that had cocoons in it. But, like, as the bins go along, every time I dig like this to feed, I pour in fresh bedding, and then I feed, and then I cover it back up. And so we put 6 quarts in. There's a 28 quart container, and we put 6 quarts in to start with. And then as we go along, every feeding increases by a quart of bedding roughly. And so by the time we get done, you're running probably 8 weeks. So that's 8 more quarts. So 14 quarts altogether. And so that's not bad. It's still light. It's still movable. I hear people talking about the bins and how heavy they are and what to do about it. Well, everybody wants to get these 18-gallon totes, and I did the same thing. I started out with that, and then I see people, like I said about the lids, I see people drilling through their lids and drilling through their sides and drilling holes in the bottom, and I'm like, what are you doing with it? I was like, now what do you got? I mean, you just might as well build a little screen house to put them in. You're supposed to keep them in here and keep them enclosed, and they're not going to suffocate. Okay, you could probably smother them to death if you tried, but if I don't know. They live in the dirt. Okay, they live underground. Just a different way they exchange oxygen to start with is through the moisture. And so this whole air thing, I'm assuming is a lot of people are for moisture problems and being too wet. Well, quit putting water in your bin. Quit overwatering. That's the easiest way. That's what I did. Stop overwatering. You won't have a really wet bin. I've seen people fight and argue about freezing food and not freezing food. One person says, "Oh, if you freeze it, it makes more water." Freezing food doesn't create more water. You can't. If that was the case, then the Earth would be flooded from Antarctica freezing so much it would make so much more water every time it froze. An orange, if you freeze it, you're not creating any more moisture. You're only freezing the moisture. It makes it mushier when it thaws out. I blend my food. I add water to my food. If I take bananas or something, I don't make pudding. I make a slushy is what I call it, a worm slushy. I add water to it, and then I get it thick enough. I keep adding stuff to it till it gets the right consistency I want, which is about like a slushy. And that's what I use to feed them. And I don't put water in. I don't have a water jar over here. I don't have a sprayer. I don't have anything like that. I just put the food in. The food gives it enough moisture with the water that I added to the blending process and I put a little bit of dry bedding in the bottom, pour the food on top of it, cover it up, and I don't have a moisture problem. Yeah, I got moisture on the sides right here. Yeah, it's wet. But guess what? It stays in here. It doesn't come back out. I don't have pot worms. The worms love it. The cocoons love it. So it works for me. I don't know if it'll work for you or not, but it works for me, and I'm trying to show you how I do it and how it works, and maybe you can do the same thing, and maybe I can answer some questions for some people that are getting into it. And there's a lot of info on the internet, and you know what they say. If it ain't true, you can't put it on the internet, right? So, anyways, a lot of misinformation on there. There's a lot of videos from 10 years ago. People like I said, drilling 20 holes, drilling holes this big, then they put screen over it, and then let's drill some holes in the top. You gotta have 50 holes all the way around the top edge, near the top edge, and this and that. And then they're like, I don't know why my bin keeps drying out, or I don't know why my worms keep escaping, or I do. It's because you drilled a bunch of holes in their house, and then yeah, they came out, or you got too many holes in it, and now you're drying your bin out. So I don't know, just a little confusing to me. And I've done my research and everything, and it just I don't know. Like I said, this is what I came up with, a conglomeration from a lot of really good people. If you go to let's see, AV is the name of the channel. Capital A period, capital V period. Swarm guy. He does it down in his basement. He's got bins. He's got totes. He's got the gray totes. He don't have any lids on his bins, and he runs the plastic on top of it. But he runs his bins the way he runs them, and he does good. He's having a good amount of castings. He's got African night crawlers, European night crawlers. I think he's got blues. He's got reds. Who else? The crazy worm lady. She's got a good channel, and she's running her bins the way she runs hers. And then what is it? The gardening worm, the worm and garden lady. She's been doing it 20 some years, and she's selling worms, and she's really cool. She's got a lot of good info, and she runs these size totes. She doesn't run the 18-gallon break your back. Let me bend over and then let me work on this tote down inside of this big hole here. And I just decided to do the same thing. I got these little totes here, and they're really thin, and I can reach right in and work around and maintenance everything I need to do, and then pop the lid on it, throw it on the stack, and move on to the next one like that. And it takes up a whole lot less room. I've got these two sitting here that I'm putting the babies in, and then if you notice, I stacked those up right there against the wall so that I could have a little bit of room for right now. But you see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 totes stacked up on top of each other. And if I'd have had regular totes with lids, and I could have maybe put four, or three. And so they take up a lot less room. And I noticed too that I was running the 18-gallon bins. They were this tall, but only had this much castings in it. So I was like, well, how about I just get me a smaller bin and run the same amount of castings, and just less bin to tote around, less bin to take up room, less bin to fight to get down in here to work on my worms and feed and dig and look. And so anyway, that's kind of what I came up with. So like I said, if anybody's got any questions about anything, you're more than welcome to drop them in the comments. If you like what you're watching, make sure you hit that thumbs up. And if you want to keep hanging out with us, just come on back and hit that subscribe button and the little bell notification, and you'll be able to know when we drop a new video. And I'm going to start putting one out, I don't know, a couple out every week or so as I come up with topics. I'm on a couple of worm pages, and so I'm following it and watching to see what people want to know or need to know. So anyway, if you want to know something, or you know something I don't know, hey, let me know. That'll be good too. Like I said, I'm never ever gonna claim to be a worm expert. I'm just a hobbyist worm grower. So anyway, I appreciate you coming in, check it out. Like I said, everybody have a good night. Thank you very much. Bye bye.